Dear Lord, please let the words that flow from me be in your spirit. Amen. Love and hate are both beasts, and the one that grows is the one you feed. I heard this on a YouTube video over 10 years ago. It was titled Instructions for a Bad Day. And this term of phrase, this quote, really stuck with me. It was the first step on acknowledging that my perspective will shape my reality. Because there is good in bad, there is bad in good. And nothing in this existence will ever be perfect. And I can't control everything that happens to me, but I sure can control how I respond to that situation. Am I going to be vengeful or angry against someone who is, by all accounts, just another flawed human? Or am I going to love them? Am I going to show remorse? Again, just because you choose to show remorse does not mean you are a victim. You can harbor a warrior spirit and fight back without killing. You can take it to a point just to diffuse the situation. Now, nothing is perfect. Not everything goes according to plan, but loving versus hating. If something happens to you, are you going to seek retribution? Are you going to seek vengeance? Or are you going to simply understand why? Are you going to be the mirror to reflect that negativity, whatever it is, that vileness, back to them, so someone can actually see how twisted they have become, if they are acting that way? Unfortunately, humans are easily manipulated. Whether we want to believe it or not, we are easily manipulated. The CIA, for a long time, has dedicated a lot of resources to figuring out how to maximize manipulation. You can look at Project Stargate, you can look at MKUltra, you can look at the Gateway experience, which came from, I believe, if I remember correctly, the Gateway experience was developed by the CIA within Project Stargate. But either way, we are very much psychic, emotional beings. We can pick up things from other people. That's why I always approach things from a sort of spiritual nature. Again, I said I am an expanded Christian. What do I say by expanded Christian? I believe in the infinite creator. I believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins so that way we can have eternal life after that. However, what I cannot deny is the effect, like the scientific experiments that have gone on that do show that our minds, our thoughts, our presence, it can affect the reality around us. If you would like more details on that, please let me know in the comments. I can update the description based on that, or even create a follow-up video to include links or what have you. But the information is all out there. For instance, and I always like to quote this one, this is where the man, I believe he was Chinese, he did a rice experiment. And I've talked about it multiple times before, but he had 3 jars of rice that he had put in his fridge. And 1 he spoke only good things to, 1 he spoke only bad things to, and the 3rd he ignored completely. The one he spoke positive affirmations to, it stayed good rice. The 2nd turned completely black. This was over the course of 30 days. And then the 3rd one was the worst. It completely rotted. So that tells you that having a reaction of some sort to something will affect it one way or another, positive or negative. But if you ignore it, it's going to rot and decay, which is arguably worse than turning completely black. But either way, so long as you try to approach something from a positive standpoint, it's going to have a positive effect, net positive, even if it is not immediate, even if it is not pleasant. It can lead to that. Because narcissists, let's say you're dealing with a narcissist, right? And narcissists cannot, under any situation, take any sort of blame. They cannot take criticism. They are always in the right, and if someone is coming against them, then they are clearly the villain, that other person. So let's say a narcissist has you under their thumb for the longest time, and you show that reflection to them. You act in a very calm demeanor, you explain yourself very thoroughly, and you force that narcissist to look at their reflection. You're going to lose that relationship. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Narcissists will never, ever admit fault. They're incapable of doing so. So when that happens, you're gonna probably lose that relationship. It will never be as close as it was, or what have you. A number of factors and variables will take place into where that relationship goes moving forward, if you even choose to keep it. But the net positive is that you chose to not be a victim anymore. Now they're gonna blame you till the cows come home that this is all your fault. It's all your fault, but it's always been your fault in their eyes. The reason that things were so bad in the first place is because it was your fault. That's what they will tell you, and that's what they will make you believe. But once you understand the circumstances of the situation, and then you show that to them, and they have to come to terms with that, they're going to completely reject it. But you still chose to stand up for yourself, and for that, you should be proud of yourself. Absolutely. Is it a shame? Yes. But what is worse is wasting more time on that. More time on believing that you are actually the problem when all you wanted was to be treated like a normal human being. And what you do deserve is to be treated like an equal. We all should be treating each other like equals, regardless of skin color, religious belief, monetary status, or anything like that. We all should be treating each other with some base level of respect. However, I always say this, and I will say it again 1,000,000 times. Respect is given, or respect is earned. It is not given. So I will always approach someone with a base level of respect. I'm always pleasant. Until you're not pleasant with me. Until you get really annoyed, frustrated, angry, whatever it is. And they get angry and just talk down to me, demeaning, what have you, whether it be professional, just random offhand encounter in a grocery store, out in public, something like that. If that happens, I'm gonna give it right back. I don't care if you're 65, 80. The whole respect your elders. I've worked all my life, and darn it, you deserve to hear my opinion. No, I don't. I don't. You can speak it. I don't have to take it into consideration, especially if you are saying I'm what's wrong with society, when our generation can't live like your generation can. Granted, I am very thankful and overwhelmingly blessed for where I am at in life. There is accountability that takes precedence there. Don't forget that you have to give yourself credit when you sacrifice and strive forward and whatnot. And then it's very easy for everyone to just, that mindlessly consumes, to look at someone successful and say, well, they're just lucky, they didn't deserve it, blah blah blah. They don't know what you went through. Likewise, you have to try doubly as hard as the previous generations just to learn the American dream, because all the politicians and all the corporations have put profit and control at the top. Instead of providing a benefit to their customers, they have just outright said, well, we deserve unfiltered access to all your data, your personal data. How dare you even think that you should withhold your dollars from us for this service that we provide? Meanwhile, you don't have any options because everything is really inching more and more towards just monopolies. I was talking about this with my wife yesterday, and it was, this is a sidebar. This is, it's sad because we were talking about all the cell phone providers back 20 years ago. You know, Nextel was the big one that we talked about. They had the the walkie-talkie phones. US Cellular, I don't even know if US Cellular is still around. I hardly ever hear of them anymore, but right now you pretty much have Verizon and AT&T, which merged with T-Mobile. Those are pretty much the only two mainline carriers out there anymore. You have like Cricket Wireless, but they don't have their own network. It's all probably off of Verizon bands. But you know, it's one of those things that, you know, even now it's Disney and it's Warner Bros. Everyone else is kind of under that. If you want any good quality media without any sort of political message behind it, you look and you just want a simple good story, you look at indie films. And then once an indie film pops off, the big conglomerates want to snatch up the studio immediately and take the IP. And of course you're just going to sell it, because no one wants to work so freaking hard for nothing, because minimum wage doesn't do anything anymore. Minimum wage used to be what it was for a basis to live. Now it is not that in the slightest. You try to live minimum wage now, you're going to be stuffed in a room with 6 other roommates at least. Whereas in the previous generations, you could actually go off and buy a house working in a grocery store or being a mechanic or something like that, and now you can't. It's very hard. Very hard. And then of course you have the flip side of that, where it's like hustle culture, hustle culture, hustle culture, and it's like you're working yourself to the bone. You're working yourself completely dead. You are going to the point where you don't have the strength or the mental capacity to make an informed decision at the end of the day, because you're spending all your time working. And what I mean by an informed decision is really simple. It's not necessarily who you're voting for, or should you go for that electric bill, that electric provider, mind you, because you know you've all been solicited by the energy suppliers. Oh, we do clean energy, but you're gonna pay a ton more, and your rates fluctuate. Yeah, whatever. It's crazy, but you know, not only that, it is, how's my diet? Do I have that candy bar? I'm craving a candy bar. Man, I'm so exhausted, but that candy bar seems really good right now, and I deserve a treat for how long I've been working, even though it's bad for me and it's gonna poison me. And this leads me to the next point, which is less is more. Less is absolutely more. If you don't need to buy if you don't buy a bunch of stuff that you do not need, then you don't need to work so much. There's a difference between having money and having debt, and that is not fully explained. In fact, debt is the American way, and that is what we're taught, because, and I have this theory that that's because our economy is based on consumerism debt, because our currency holds no actual value. The American dollar, once we got off the gold standard, no longer held value. Literally became a fiat currency, which means that it doesn't have any value intrinsically, physical. All it is our belief in it that gives it power and influence and value. And now it's even getting worse, because you're taking that physical currency out of our hands, and it's more and more just becoming numbers on a screen. This is how much my virtual bank account says that I have. And then you just take your card and tap. All that is tells you how much on your debit card you can spend or send on a Google Play or the Apple Store, or whatever way you receive a digital good. That's what dictates how much you can spend. And it's crazy how credit cards are pushed, and everyone's just told, get into debt, get into debt, get into debt. So there are two sides to this coin. There is the fact that the American dollar has a lot less buying power than it used to. There's the fact that the gold standard went away, and we have this debt-based currency that its only real value is what we believe it has, and the only way to enforce that belief is by trading in oil, which is why the BRICS nations and those BRICS currencies are so terrible and such a threat. And any time that really has been up for debate or threatened, we suddenly have a war with that country. It's pretty crazy. Or we just have a CIA op that destabilizes the region. Amazing how that works. And then we have just, you know, inflation in general because of the collapse of that. And what else is really unfortunate is that the rest of the world kind of follows suit to what we have. It's not just even though our dollar is losing its value, it's still one of the leading currencies in the world, if not the leading currency in the world. It used to be the euro. I don't pay too much attention to why that failed, but you see that you see that somewhere in the last 5 years, they've kind of evened out. Maybe the dollar ekes out the edge on the euro. But it's one of the leading currencies. As scary as it is to say that our dollar has the least amount of buying power that it's had in a very long time, the world follows suit. So it's not just us, and that's why you see so many foreign countries have such a huge weigh-in on our elections, because what we do amongst ourselves affects the rest of the world. But then you get these ultra-billionaire people out there, which I get it. I get people that want to say, speaking of billionaires, I have to make this sidebar real quick. I understand why people are like, if Elon Musk took so much of his money and put it towards ending world hunger, no one would starve. But you know who has more money than Elon Musk? The US government. Unfortunately, we spend a lot of those trillions of tax dollars on war, on the war machine. If you took 1% of what that is, I'm not going to look up numbers, but I've done it before, and I know that if you took just 1% of what we spend on our defense budget and funding the wars and the war machine, you could end that. Easy. You could end that. You wouldn't have to rely on donations from the poor. It gets into climate change, everything. This is why I don't trust the mainstream media, and I think growing distrust is that they take the amount of, you know, pollution, for instance, that we have, and they want to apply it to the consumer. They say it's your fault. It's your fault for that plastic is in the ocean. It's your fault that CO2 emissions are way up. It's your fault. It's your fault, the consumer, bad consumer. Dude, I'm not the one that's making tons of profit off of drilling oil in third world countries and clogging up their rivers. I'm not the one that is shipping back and forth and taking all the plastic, and because we're in international waters, I'm just going to dispose of it because it's easier. You do realize, most people don't, but there is a thing that plastic recycling is a lie. It was created so that most plastic companies could continue making plastic and people would feel better about it. So at that point, is it the consumer that is the problem, or is it the companies that are the problem? Is it really the people that are struggling to live life and just want to be able to, after a long, hard day's work, that have kids to take care of and need just a couple of hours of sanity to rest and recharge? Is it really so crazy that they would just go to the store and then they see all the grocery store, mind you, and they see all the stuff that they used to buy that's just jacked up super high, and they have to go with the low quality food that is packaged in plastic and it's poor, and not poor in nature, just poor in quality and bad for the environment? No, it is not. And then so what if they go ahead and throw it in the trash, or if they throw it in the recycling bin, it winds up in the same place anyways, but somehow it is that person's fault. It's not. It's not. And I don't even know what I'm going to title this video. I was thinking about titling it The Two Beasts for clickbait. I don't know what I'm going to title it, right? Because at the core of it, it is love and it is hate. And it is how we choose to approach every single day. And it started off really gung-ho and preachy and about perception, but it's churned. And I've in this whole thing that I have talked about, in this topic that I just went down this path, it's turned into how the economy is in shambles and how it's not necessarily your fault. It's not our faults. It is our faults to a degree, but it is also not, because let's face it, the American diet of 5,000 calories, you don't need it because we're sedentary. Most of us work in offices. We sit for long times, and it's not good for our health. And we wonder why we are fat, and it is not because we ingest 5,000 calories. It is because our food is poisoned by Monsanto, who owns Roundup, and they also own the patent for the seed that is resistant to their pesticide. And it is the way that our wheat is made, because it's been hybridized and it's horrible. And part of it comes from how freaking large the United States of America is, and we need to pack everything with preservatives. The other part of it is just greed. And so, there's so much, and people catch on to what they're ingesting, and then they're like, well, we're not selling enough sugar, so they rename it to friggin' cornstarch, and boom, bada bing, there you go, more sugar. And when everything boils down to money and status, does it matter? Does it matter? And at the end of the day, when it comes to my life, when it comes to what science tells me is the healthy way of living, or anything like that, I came to this conclusion long ago. And when I go on these rants and I make these videos, all I want is for people to know that you can do the same thing, and that is to decide for yourself. Decide for yourself what is best for you and go forward. Me, I prioritize being fit. Because not only do I feel better when I am fit, I have more energy, I have more mental clarity. How do I do that? I fast, because I used to eat a lot of trash food. My diet is changing. It is ever evolving. Right now, I used to think it was because I ate so little that I was slimming down. That could also be a thing. But I realized that I do need calories to live. We all do. But seed oils are very bad for you, and half of what we eat is poison anyways, and is banned in the rest of the world. But yet we always have this division between the East and the West, and I don't care where you're from, or what your background is, the color of your skin, or who you are. I look at everyone from a point of being an individual. And even though I talk ill of narcissists, it's only my personal history with a narcissist that is understanding of that. I don't know if it's actually nature versus nurture in that regard. What I do know, though, is that a person's experiences is what shapes them for the most part. I'm one to speak. And I can tell you that you need to have compassion for your fellow human. It's very easy when you're online and everyone's just a username, a blank slate, whatever, to trash them. It's very easy to point at the person across the political aisle and say, you are everything that's wrong with this world. It's not. We're all just humans trying to live, and it's the 1% at the top that are gatekeeping technology, food, breakthroughs, and the means of control. For the means of absolute control, they're holding this from the rest of the public, and they're destroying the world for that profit. They are the enemy. They embody the spirit of the real enemy. And if they didn't do it, someone else would. That is the fact of it. I know a lot of vegetarians and vegans who are like, if no one bought beef, then they would change the way of their methods. And it's like, look, if I did not buy that steak, someone else is gonna buy that steak. The cow's already dead. I did not kill the cow, but someone else would buy it. Your argument to the way I live my life is is true. There is merit to it. But there is absolutely no way in this landscape that we are going to unite tons of people against buying beef. And then you tell them, buy Beyond. Beyond is worse for you because it is processed heavily. Heavily processed foods are horrible for you. It doesn't matter that it doesn't contain any meat. What matters is what kind of oils are in it, what kind of fats are in it, what kind of sugar is in it. I've gotten to the point where when I shop for food, I like to go canned. Canned is really good. This Hormel chicken breast, 98% fat-free, in water is my go-to for lunch. It has 3.5 servings, 70 calories per serving. It has 2 grams of fat. Total fat is 1, and it says 0.5 gram of saturated fat. There's no polyunsaturated fat or monounsaturated fat. It's got no vitamin D, no calcium, anything like that. However, it does have 13 grams of protein and 190 milligrams of potassium per serving. Now, it does have 410 milligrams of sodium, so that's pretty rough, but it's also no sugar. This is actually pretty much pure protein. Unfortunately, this can is about $4, but at the end of the day, for 240 grams or 240 calories total, I think it's 245, I'm gonna get 45 grams of protein out of that and some good potassium. You couple that with just drinking water and black coffee. Black coffee, you can drink up to 5 cups and maintain a fasted state. So the only other thing that I do get, we have a market here that has a protein shake in it that also only contains like 5 grams of sugar. 0% of that is added sugar. And because you do need sugar to survive, don't get me wrong. But the stuff you want to avoid is added sugar. But you take all that into account. See, that's 170 plus 245. Just cut it down to 50. It's like 400 calories, maybe a little over. And out of that, I'm getting 26 plus 45 plus 20 is 65. I'm getting just over 70 grams of protein. I'm getting like 72 grams of protein and less than 500 calories, and that's really good. That's actually really good. And it's, again, I only eat this way because I look at what is in everything. It takes some time, but once you get used to it, it becomes a part of your habit, and you will find that you have more energy and mental clarity. Now, I am already running the risk of this going really long, so I'll start to wrap up here. But really, I'll go back to the very beginning, and I've said a lot of stuff. I'm sure I have a lot of half-made points that eventually led from one thing to another and kind of creates a narrative. But at the end of the day, love and hate are both beasts, and the one that grows is the one you feed. So when you look at people and you want to blame them for all the problems of the world, take a beat. Before you write that comment, make that tweet, whatever. Make that post, make that viral video. Try to make a viral video. And just think about the people that you are demonizing. And literally just think of them as people that are struggling, because that is what we all are. We are people of different walks of life, different backgrounds, different upbringings, different core beliefs that essentially want the same thing, which is we just need our needs met and we want to make the world a better place. Despite what you really believe about other people, that is what most of us want. A lot of people believe they have the answers, and so they want to control. However, sovereignty is non-negotiable. You are a sovereign being, and you have to fight for that sovereignty. Sovereignty is a fancy way of saying freedom. We're all born with freedom and the right to choose, and you have to fight for that. Whether it is fleeing your country to come to America, whether it is just running away, getting away from whatever system you're in that does not allow you the opportunities to be free, whether it is fighting your whole life to change that system from within, whatever it is, I want you to know that there are those that hate you and there are those that love you. And you just need to understand that the one infinite creator does love everyone. He does. God is infinite love. That is what God is. We might not understand it in the moment because they tell us that God is something that is beyond our comprehension. So instead of taking my time and trying to break down how incomprehensible God is to our human minds, I'm just going to tell you that from an overview of perspective, a great overview of humanity, we're all just struggling to make the best. And money is not the answer, because if money was the only answer, rich people would not be offing themselves. You wouldn't have doctors killing themselves. You wouldn't have very depressed people that have all the money. There's got to be a baked in layer of guilt there. They know that they are the haves and that the have-nots are struggling, and they have, or someone that was born into a wealthy family that just had everything handed to them. They didn't struggle for anything. Without any form of struggle, our lives become meaningless. And when life becomes meaningless, then bad things happen. Bad things happen. You get people doing extreme things to try to feel, and that is how you get rich kids hooking other kids on drugs in good school systems. That's how you get murderers. That's how you get sociopaths, right? Because people can't find any answers, and then they just feel like, well, if nothing matters, then I'm gonna do whatever. But I could go on forever. But again, at the end of the day, love and hate are both beasts, and the one that grows is the one you feed. So when you have the option for hatred, try to choose love. Just try to choose love and see what happens. The worst that could happen is that you're not loved back, and then you can understand that you tried. And that is something that you can hang your hat on, because a lot of people this day and age don't even want to try because they feel like it's pointless. With that being said, I love you all. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you so much. To all the new subscribers, as always, thank you so much. I have seen some of your comments. Someone saying that I am a rare person because I made them change their perspective. And to you, I can't remember your name off the top of my head, but that means the world to me. Thank you. That's all I want to do, is make some thought-provoking content. I refuse to contribute to just hateful content, the type of content that just latches onto nothing and wants to drag your attention down. I want to make something thought-provoking and try to push love to the forefront and compassion, because we all are struggling so much right now, and we all just need a little bit of support and understanding. That's all. And you'd be amazed at when we get out of our echo chambers and we go and meet each other face to face and we just talk to one another, we can understand. There's got to be at least some common ground we can get to. But with that, I will continue to make videos. I took a couple days off because I wanted to live in the moment, be with my wife. There are house issues, right? Discovered we have 2 roof leaks now. 2 points in our roof that are leaking, so I get to fix that. I was gonna fix them yesterday, but it was very windy and I could have been blown off the roof, so we just did not do that then. So hopefully by the winter storm this weekend we can get that going. But that's another topic for another day. And if you want a more personalized video from my personal perspective, please let me know. I will be happy to accommodate. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you all. I love you so much. And until the next time, my name is Ken, and I'll see you then.